Hey everyone, it's Jeff Fisher of High School Football America in the NFL Play Football studio. Football's right around the corner. The High School Football America Preseason 300, powered by NFL Play Football, put out on Monday. It's now Tuesday, and time to talk to the man at the top of the rankings, Jason Negro of St. John Bosco, two-time High School Football America national champ. I have to point out for the fans, Jason, we know you won it in 13. You were number two. You were runner-up with us, so your fans get a little upset when I only
Uh,
call you two times. So you're two-time with us, three-time overall. But anyway, Jason, thanks for taking the time.
yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's always a pleasure, to be on this show. You guys do such a phenomenal job at High School Football America, and we're just proud to be a part of the 300. And hopefully, we can finish the season the way we're starting it.
Yeah, I know you love the bullseye there. A couple of things at the top that aren't number one related. You have now surpassed your friend and one time, combatant, Bruce Rollinson, for the most appearances on our podcast
All
through the
right, there
years.
we go.
There is nothing that comes along with that. No bragging, right? Maybe with Bruce. I don't know. Bruce may call me up and say, "Hey, Jeff, can I come on?" And I don't know what I'll talk
Yeah,
about.
no,
But
that's fine. Anytime I have an ability to be one up on the great Bruce Rollinston, I'm going to take it. That his
yeah,
career
well,
was certainly phenomenal, and hopefully, I can just be announced in the same breath as him because I
well,
have a lot of respect for what he did over there at Modern Day.
yeah, no doubt about that. Five of our national championships. And as we said on the last time we chatted when we unveiled your schedule, you are now
Mhm.
the graybeard
I know, seriously.
of the Trinity League. But before we get into the number one, I'm going to do something a little sideways on the number one because whenever we put this out, you've got the haters out there in the world that are talking about, oh, this team only is football. Oh, they only care about football's wins and losses and all that. I'd like to start with your reaction to the fact that when I called Jesse Christensen earlier this year for our academic All-America team, which means you had to have a 3.7 GPA or higher,
Right,
Jesse gave me a pretty good long list.
right.
21 Braves were academic All-Americans last year. I'd love for you to start there about having a great program that's getting it done on the field, but just as well in the classroom.
Well, it's certainly a testament to what the teachers and the counselors and everybody here on the academic side of the school are doing in terms of preparing our, athletes from the student side. And we talk about that all the time. It's really important for our kids in order to be successful, and be able to, navigate their way to the collegiate level. You got to take care of three main areas. One of them is academic. The other one is your behavior and your ethical decision making. And then the third piece is the football side. And football's easy. It's the other two that they really got to put in some time and effort in to make sure that they're doing what's supposed to be done. But we take a lot of pride, like I said, here at St. John Bosco, being a college preparatory institution to get kids to the next level. And I think our parents understand that as well. And you can't have one without the other. So if you put a premium, on the academic side, then I only think that it helps you out on the athletic side, makes our job just a little bit easier. And it's great to have 21, but we have nearly 200 kids in our program. So that's still fallen, short of what our estimated ultimate goals are. And I know that's a lofty expectation, but academics is certainly something that's really important here. And we're going to emphasize it year in and year out.
Yeah, and again, we'll get to the preseason in a second here, but it made me think like in the college football world that's changed so dramatically lately. It's got to be wonderful for coaches to come on your campus. I know you get a lot of them to know that these kids in your program have kind of that college experience already, whether it's your academic rigors or some of the traveling you do with a lot of your preseason games and all that.
Well, without question. I mean, I think the biggest thing, for the student athletes that we talk about and their families when they come through here, the first question a college coach and the guys that are going to watch this podcast will tell you the same. When they come in, the first thing they ask is about transcripts. They want to know how they're academically doing because, colleges now are making a huge investment in these guys and they need to know, and it's on the monetary side. So they need to know if they're going to be able to be trusted when they get on campus, that they're going to do the things that are necessary for them to do to remain eligible and to remain, responsible for, the things that they need to be responsible for in order to play the game of football. So we talk to our kids about that a lot, and we share with them those conversations when the college guys come in, but it's certainly something that's really important to us. And we talk, to the families and we try to educate them on what is the most important thing, and academics and behavior certainly come first and second.
All right. The bullseye is on the chest. I know you don't, shy away from that. You'd prefer to be two and, just be number one at the end. But
Right,
here's a question for you. I think, let's see, you got, when I was a kid growing up, it was only USA Today, right? They were the one pollster. Then Max came along. We came along in 12. So we're all almost a little bit of an OG at this point.
right.
But social media being what it is, I mean, before with USA Today, you had to buy an actual newspaper, right? So, how do you, as the head coach of this program, because you're going to be high in all of the rankings, how do you
Right.
keep the kids from kind of not believing what they're seeing there, but yet want them to know that they're pretty darn good and they got to live up to something?
It's a standard that has been set here at Bosco. I'm going into my 17th year. And I think if you go back to when you first started in 2012, that was kind of when we started to ascend and to be mentioned, on the national scene, so to speak. So our kids know it. Like you said, you cannot shy away from it. They understand what the standard is and what we have set here at Bosco. They know what the expectations are. And year in and year out, this is kind of what we've grown accustomed to. And that's really cool for me as an alum of the school to know that we're being spoken about at such high regards in terms of the national talent that's across the country, because there's certainly really great areas that play high school football. And to be a part of California and to know that, we're representing not only, our city, but our state and our area and region is really important to me. So managing those expectations, our kids just kind of know. I mean, I think it's something that you, again, like you said, we don't shy away from it. You have to kind of embrace it. It's something really cool to talk about. And we all know it's mythical unless you're able to go out there and to play every single person that's across the country ranked in these certain, ranking systems. You're never really going to know. However, it is something to really shoot at, and it's really something fun to be able to follow. And if you're a high school student athlete, or if you're a coach and you're in this type of an arena, and you have the ability to sit there and say, look, I was crowned as the number one, entity in whatever professional, organization that I'm a part of at the end of the conclusion of the season, is something to be super proud about. And we're going to certainly not shy away from that, as you said.
Yeah, you never do. I know you. We offline. We have a lot of fun with it, but it's always good. And you've been one of the guys that have been part of high school football America's growth, and we thank you for that. One of the things, and again, because like Bruce, sometimes when he was on, I had to look for new things to talk about, and I'm sure we've talked about this somewhere in the past, but not in the recent past, and that is your staff. And
Mhm.
as you just said, you've been there 17 years. I know you've still got, a lot of OGs there with you on that. Talk a little bit about your staff and bringing the program to the level that it's at right now.
They're the number one, uh, you know, piece that's responsible for the success, the consistency, the lack of turnover. I've been very blessed and very honored to be able to, have lead over these guys. My defensive coordinator, Chris King's been with me all 17 years. My offense coordinator, Stephen Lowe's going into year 9. I've only had two coordinators in my entire career, and the other one's a head coach at a local school here. So for me, the consistency, my staff, my D line coach, which the O line D line coaches are probably your next two important people. D line guy's been here all 17 years, and my O line coach.
Get their names in too. We don't want to get mad
Yeah,
at me.
no, that's fine. Yeah, Paul Diaz is my defensive line coach. Jim Adams, my O line coach with Freddie Arteaga. Those guys have done a great job, and Jim's been here for 24 years. And then you mentioned Jesse earlier as the director of football operations. We were the first one out here in California to kind of start that position. I think now everybody, even at the public school, have somebody in a role like that, because you cannot have a program like we do here at Bosco without those important people. And then, I'm really blessed by the administration and the ownership of the school. The Salesians have really put me in a position to allow me to do my job. Every athletic director or principal or president that's come through, they really shared the same vision that I've had. And, you hear a lot of coaches stepping away from the game because they just don't have the support. And I am, do not fall into that category. And I think because of what my staff has been able to do here at Bosco, and the longevity that I have had with the consistent members, of this staff, top to bottom, going to even into my freshman staff. I've got 3 members down there that have been with me all 17 years here. And I think that really, says a lot about what we're trying to do. And we share all the same vision. We all have the same expectations. And like I said earlier, that standard has been set. And as long as you get everybody kind of, moving in the same direction, when you add a piece here or there, they've got to kind of adapt and to, conform to what we're doing. And that's what we've been able to do with the turnover that which we have, which has been small. However, it's that consistent message, the mission that we have, and we just go out there and execute it year in and year out.
No, and you've done one whale of a job, and it's no doubt you've got a family there. You use that word, and I think that's a good one, knowing a lot of how the program works itself. You mentioned it at 2 questions ago or 2 answers ago, which is, unless you play number one versus two at the end, you never know who's the national champ. Well, guess what? In week
Yeah,
one for you, week two for Gorman, the number two
right.
team in our poll is Bishop Gorman. You take that on. Question would be this: A, why not a cupcake to start? And B, they've got a week under their belt going into you. So, however you want to answer that question, go ahead.
Well, when you're consistently year in and year out in the preseason or even postseason polls are ranked somewhere in the top five, like we have been over the last, I don't know, 12, 15 years or so, you don't have the opportunity to schedule cupcakes. People don't want to play you, which I can certainly understand. You want to play like-minded opponents, and that's basically the situation that we have been in. Over the last 3 years, to start our season, we opened up with Thomas Aquinas. We opened up with Chaminade Madonna down in Florida. We've opened up, with really good teams all across the country. And I think that's just puts us in the situation to where we're at now. And it's interesting that you say that because, I think a lot of people, and there's gaining a lot of momentum with people trying to do a postseason national championship type tournament. I know you've probably heard about it, and people are starting to talk and post some things about this potentially happening. But I think it's super, super difficult for you to be able to line all of the state playoffs and then still go play in a national tournament. And then with the early signing period, you're getting kids late into December saying, I'm ready to move on. I've won my state title. I've done everything that I need to do. I just want to go to college. And I think you saw that last year with the IMG, St. Francis. You had those two teams that were sitting 1-2 at the end of the season, and they were going to play a late season mythical national championship game. And the IMG kids were like, we're ready to go to college. So I don't know if you're ever going to get that. But however, what I always felt in the philosophy that I said is play it on the front end. Let's do what NASCAR does. They play their Super Bowl in their first race of the season. Let's go out there and play the best people possible. And then, if you finish strong at the end and you win the necessary games, then you're going to have, the argument to stake your claim as the national title rather than doing it on the back end. And I know people might say, oh, it's going backwards and that's not real, but it's the best way that you could possibly really stake your, case to be national champs at the end is if you just play on the front end. And then for us, we're very fortunate because we got the Trinity League as the league. And then you have to just hit repeat when you go into the playoffs here in California and play those guys all again. So that's kind of been my philosophy. And, and again, we can't shy away from it and kind of what we built this program into. And I have a lot of respect for the people that we get to play. And we're just going to go out there and take it 1 week at a time. And, Brett's done a great job over there at Gorman, and it's going to be a great environment in August there in Vegas.
As the kids say, receipts, right? You do it at the beginning, right through. There's no doubt what the algorithm will say. Who's number one? You've got, in addition to Gorman, which has won, I think, 15 of the last 16 Nevada big school state championships. You've got 5A from Pennsylvania. We talked about this a couple of months ago. I love the fact that Roman Catholics coming out to play from Pennsylvania. They're 5A champ, and then of course Santa Margarita, the Open Division champ in the Trinity League. Tell me a little bit about. When you have schools from across the country, I love the interstate matchups. How easy or difficult is it to, get film? I know huddle and all that good stuff, but how easy or hard is it to prepare for a school like that?
Well, the preparation, again, there's a lot of unknowns when you go into a new opponent. Roman Catholic, credit to them. They reached out to us early on in the spring and said, hey, look, we'd be interested in coming out and playing you guys in California. It's something we want to do. We want to try to elevate our program. They're coming off, you said, a 5A state championship there in Pennsylvania. So for us, it's really exciting. In terms of just the unknowns, you just don't know a whole lot about who they play, what they're all about or the nuances. You can only pick up so much information from film. You have to kind of base your opinions upon that, or maybe talk to some people that in the region who have maybe played those guys or have a pulse on what they are all about as a program. But coaches are pretty pretty great in terms of like just sharing film and all that kind of stuff. And that way you don't have to go run around and hunt things down, and you just try to prepare the best you can. And, again, the way we approach things here at Bosco is we worry more about ourselves rather than the opponent. We don't spend too much time worrying about what they're doing. We know that they have a scheme. We know that they have personnel, and we know that they have a certain approach to the game, but so do we. And so we can kind of dictate to our opponent, how we're going to play the game and put them in the position of being a little defensive. That's going to give us an advantage. And I think that's the approach that we take. Let's worry about us. Let's worry about what we do and how we execute. And let's throw the chips on the table and let them play out. And then we'll see what happens in game is where I think it's most important when you play some of these out-of-state opponents. And that's where we've been really good as a staff over the years. And I credit my guys. They're really, really talented to make in-game adjustments against these out-of-state teams, especially from the officials all the way to the environment, to the weather, and the opponent. My guys have done a phenomenal job, and I think we're like, 30-something and 3 over the last however many years against out-of-state opponents, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Consistency. That's definitely something you brought there. By the way, just to put it in perspective to the people watching this or listening, I don't know how many years running now, except for, I guess, the COVID year, the Trinity League has been, according to our algorithm, the best league in America. And for the last 2 years, the Philadelphia Catholic League, the red division, which is where Roman Catholic's from, has been number 2. So again, a number 1 versus number 2. So anybody wondering why they're and we don't believe preseason rankings are anything other than a way to get chatter going, but there is a reason why you're where you are. No doubt about that. Let's get some of the people's juices flowing here. When we spoke in February, we didn't want to get into names or anything, but who are some of the kids by name on both sides of the ball that people should be looking for this year when they see you? Because I'm sure you're going to make a couple of national television appearances.
Yeah, I think that's obviously, you can't be in this position as a program unless you have, some really talented pieces around you. And we're not short in talent, here from the Division I level or the recruits in our program. We have a 3-year starting quarterback coming back in Koa Malaulu. He's a dynamic leader. He's, one of the top guys, not only in California, but the country. Malik Allen's returning as a running back for us. We have 3/5 of our offensive line and Caden Franco, Gabe Villalobos, and also who else? Samson Ayava. Those guys are all back on the offensive line, and we have some really talented guys at the wideout. We have a junior and DJ Tubbs returning, and Kwiku Mawali is back. That's going to play for us. He's only going to be a sophomore. Trayvon Bates, Jacob Reed. We have a really talented guys on the offensive side of the ball. And if you flip over to the defensive side, Dylan Davis and Isala Wailiava, those 2 guys at the safety position are returning along with Brandon Nash. So we have 3 safeties that played a whole lot, with DJ Lacey coming in, is going to be a sophomore. Prentice Jones is a corner along with Jay Sean Schaefer. Those 2 guys are back. So our back end of the defense is really good. And then we have USC commit Josiah Poyer at the inside linebacker position. Ethan Coach is a Washington commit, playing backer as well. Those guys are super talented. And then you talk about the upfront guys that we have in Richie Orozco, Kakoa Petco. Those guys are returning, and both of those, one's going to Boise State, the other one's going to Washington State. Samuela Fuamaru is coming back as well at the defensive end position, and Elijah Tua, who transferred in from Folsom, is going to help us out a lot. So we got a lot of pieces in those places, and I know I run down a bunch of names. I don't want to leave anybody out, like you said, but we're really surrounded by some talented individuals, and there's many kids that I didn't even mention that are going to factor into this season and to help us try to accomplish the things that we're trying to accomplish in the season at number 1, like we're starting it.
Yeah, and as we know, you need a little luck, which is health and all those other good things, but you put the schedule together. Going away here, just a couple of fun questions for you. 17 years at your alma mater, you've built it to this level. How different are you from year 1 when you took over the program? You personally, not the program, you personally.
Oh man, older, slower.
You and me both.
but my passion's still there. I still have the same amount of care, the same amount of butterflies, the same amount of nerves that go into every phase of the season. It's really challenging. I don't think people really understand. They think the private schools, you just have a cakewalk, year in and year out, and having to just roll out the balls and then just let your talented players go. And that's certainly not the case. We work really hard with what we do. There's a lot of responsibilities that I have off the field in terms of just school leadership, from the donation side and the fundraising side of the school, and that type of thing. I think just from an experience standpoint, I don't think that things bother me as much as they did when I first started. 17 years ago, I was taking over a program that was struggling at the time, and I think I built enough equity, in the performance that we have had and the success that we have had to feel a little bit more confident in the decisions that I'm making. And I think I'm better off for that, and I don't think that there's anything that I'm not really prepared for. Although in the world of education, no 2 days are ever the same, and when things come to you, you say, oh, that's a first. And, I think those moments are shrinking for me as I get older. But, I'm still the same guy. I have a lot of passion for what I do. I love the kids. I like working, at the high school level. People often talk to me about, why don't you move on to college, or why don't you go do something different and challenge yourself? But I'm a firm believer that, I'm kind of built for high school football. I'm built for, working with kids at the adolescence level from 14 to 18 years old. And that's kind of where I think that I can make my mark on our society and the community here that in the greater Los Angeles area. And I don't want to deviate too far away from that. I really like where I live. I live down near the coast, and I got a really good lifestyle going, and I don't want to disrupt that. So, I know it's a long-winded, answer to your question, Jeff, but it's just kind of where I'm at, and I hope that I have a long career still here to go at Bosco. There's a lot of things that I haven't accomplished that I want to continue to accomplish. I want to keep giving back to the school that gave me so much.
Yeah, and the people that want to know why you're not going someplace else, they're just hoping you can go, so the program maybe doesn't have that Negro
Yeah,
excellence to it.
right.
Another fun one, you're going to be, misplacing your family here for a little bit as we go into the season. The
Right.
importance of the family, your support system. What's that like to know that? Because I know you're a family man. What's it
Yeah.
like to know that it's going to be football, football, football? And your wife has been on the podcast, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's true. I could not be more, blessed to have a family that supports me as much as I have. I think that's one of the things that's changed the most, is the age of my daughters. I've got two daughters. One of them's just graduated, with her degree and moving on into the workforce. And the little
Crazy.
one, I call her the little one, but the little one is going to be 20 this year, and she's moving into her third year of college. And I'll probably be an empty nester here over the next few years, but I don't think you can do this and have the longevity that we have without a supportive, group at home. My extended family, to my in-laws, to my own my parents and my brothers and siblings and things like that, and all the people around me have really allowed me to do what I really love the most, and that's working with young kids. And I do spend probably more time here at Bosco than I do at home, like most high school coaches.
Yeah.
But again, you can't do that without supportive people, and they just understand. When I got into this thing, my first year as a head coach 24 years ago, I came home and said to my wife, I said, listen, this is what I want to do. Are you going to be in for the long haul, much like Trish is with you, Jeff, and she's going to endure it and she's going to deal with it. And I'm pretty fortunate here at Bosco because even the other head coaches on campus, their wives and their families are very much the same. So we're kind of all of the same, kind of philosophy, and we're going to support each other through that. And, when I have to run away, I've got a good enough staff that can take care of business here, that allows me to do the things that I need to do in order to steer the ship in the right direction.
And for all those people out there going, when is he going to get back to football? Last question.
All right.
What do you have to do between now and that first game to let you know that this team, again, with the luck and the health and all that, has what it takes to maybe run the table, go wire to wire, whatever you want to use the term to be?
Then the number one thing without question is stay healthy. That's for every high school football program. You have a limited number of depth. Even at a private school like ours, people think that you have a roster full of just 4 and 5 star guys, but you don't. You have just a roster, that's just a regular educationally based high school program, and then you have some areas where you're limited in depth and things like that. And when you have the wrong guys get injured, throughout the course of the season, it could really damper your chances on finishing the way that you wanted to. at the outset. So the health is number one. We got to really do a good job as a staff to manage our practices and make sure that we're using the type of format that's going to allow us to play into December and do those things. So the number one thing is health. And then I think that we have to have a lot of humility, and we have to have some hunger. Our season didn't end the way that we wanted it to in 25, and we fell short of our intended goals and expectations. So therefore, we have to use that as motivation, and we have to use it as a learning experience in order for us to get better and to be more properly prepared going into this season. And we have to hope things go our way, and hope that Brett doesn't prepare his guys to the maximum level that he could prepare them as well. And that's a lot of it. And so when I think about it, it gives me a little bit of butterflies in my stomach, thinking Gorman's, I don't know what, 8 weeks away or something like that, but it's going to be here before you know it. And God willing, we go into that game as healthy as possible. At least we're going to have a puncher's chance.
It's going to be fun, no doubt about it. Jason, thank you so much for always being, taking the time for us, being kind to us. High school football is better off because you stay in it, by the way.
Oh,
You don't
thank
need
you.
to go anywhere. You're one of the good guys, and we appreciate you, and we wish you nothing but success in 2026, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you down the line.
I hope so. Hopefully we can end the season, with crowning, us, in your poll. But again, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Jeff, you're always so gracious. Thank you for what you do for high school, athletics and high school football most specifically. And I'm really, really appreciate our friendship and you providing this platform to be able to talk about the great things we're doing here at Bellflower at St. John Bosco. And best of luck to you. Enjoy your vacation. Tell Trish I said hello, and we'll talk to you down the road.
I will, and I've got to let you do what you always do at the end. I remember this from the first time I talked to you on the radio station in Los Angeles going out. You say one thing, and I'm going to give you the opportunity, and that's how we'll end it.
All right, let's go Braves.